Dixie here. Today I want to give you an update of what's been going on in my world and also fill you in on some things about my helicopter rescue back in August. As many of y'all know, I was evacuated from the Sawtooth Wilderness back on August 28th, and once I returned home, it was a couple of days after I was rescued, I made an appointment with my cardiologist, who I've been seeing since I was 18, just to keep a check on my heart because my biological father passed away from a heart attack at the age of 32. He was seemingly in good shape. He was athletic, played rugby, so it seems that it's more of a genetic thing as far as he was concerned. So I just try to make sure I'm dodging the genetic bullets. So anyway, on September 6th, I went in and saw my cardiologist and explained to him what happened when I was in the Sawtooth Wilderness. I had basically not felt like myself from the start, but I just thought maybe it was because I hadn't been backpacking for a while. But by day 4, I very clearly realized that something serious was going on. That morning and even days before, I felt very lethargic. I also had a racing heart and tightness in my chest, which are things that you don't play with. I told him I had started a medication about 6 weeks before I started the trail for acne called spironolactone, but that I had worked out and hadn't had any issues. I didn't know if potentially that may have caused my symptoms though, so I tried to give him the full disclosure. He didn't seem super convinced that the medication would have caused my symptoms and for my Apple Watch to show that I was in atrial fibrillation, so he wanted to dig a little deeper, and I'm actually grateful for that because I'd rather be safe than sorry and really try to get to the bottom of it. But he mentioned that spironolactone in the past has been used for altitude sickness medication, and he's kind of old school, and I know that it's probably difficult to keep up with everything in the medical world, but I read studies that actually show that spironolactone can worsen your symptoms of altitude sickness and that it's really not as effective as once thought for altitude sickness. So anyway, my doctor decided to put me on a heart monitor for a couple of weeks just so he could try to see if he could catch anything as far as arrhythmias go or AFib. And he also told me that he would do a stress test and probably an electrophysiology study once that heart monitor came off. And then he said if something like an ablation was needed later down the line, we could look into that. But after 2 weeks of wearing the monitor and then boxing it up and sending it off to the lab, I got a phone call from my cardiologist saying that they were going to have to cancel my stress test because the treadmill wasn't back or in yet. Come to find out that they had ordered a treadmill, so I don't know if they had originally tried to get one repaired and then ended up ordering another one, but they weren't sure when it would be in, so they couldn't even schedule me an appointment. I called back like 2 to 3 weeks later after not hearing anything, and they told me it still wasn't in yet, and that's why I hadn't gotten a phone call. But while on the phone, I asked them about my heart monitor results, and they said they did come in and that there wasn't anything that appeared to be an immediate emergency, but the doctor would go over the results with me after I did the other tests, and we met to go over all of the results together. So here we are a couple of months later and crickets. So I decided about 2 days ago to call a new cardiologist and schedule an appointment. I have been seeing the cardiologist that I see for almost 20 years, and my grandmother saw him before that, so he's getting close to retirement, I would assume, and I don't think it's a terrible idea for me to go ahead and try to establish with another cardiologist. I do hate that it's right in the middle of all of this, but I don't want to keep waiting. And we now have this big cardiology center in town that's got multiple doctors, so I assume if one was out, you could probably get in with another, and they do all sorts of testing there, so it really just seems like a good move to go ahead and get in with them. Unfortunately, my appointment is not until mid-December, but they did tell me I could call back regularly to try to get in on a cancellation sooner. As far as the financial side goes, I want to say how much I truly appreciate y'all's support with the GoFundMe. It actually exceeded my goal, which helped more than y'all know, because the amount of bills that I'm actually having to pay for exceeded what that goal was, especially after GoFundMe takes their cut. After I talked to y'all about how much all of this cost in the last video about what happens when you push the SOS button, I got in another bill for about $2,000 because apparently the hospital and the doctors themselves bill separately. So what I got from the hospital was not an all-inclusive stay at the emergency room. In addition to that, I've had the medical bills for wearing the heart monitor when I got home and seeing my cardiologist, and I know I'm gonna have more when I go to this new cardiologist. So it is very appreciated, and again, thank y'all so much. As far as the evacuation expenses go, that is not all completely ironed out yet, so know that if you find yourself in this situation, it might take a little bit of time. I have filed everything that I needed to with Garmin probably a week or two after I got back home, and I'm still waiting for that claim to be fully processed. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened as fast as I would like it to, and Laugh Flat has continued to say, hey, don't forget you owe us this $60,000. So I have told them the situation. We are staying in communication, and I've even offered to pay what I will owe aside from that $50,000 that should be coming in from Garmin, but they've said, no, we'll wait till we get whatever from Garmin, and then you'll be responsible for the balance. Anyway, they told me to keep them posted, and that's what I'm doing. Moving along, there are a couple of things that I wanted to clear up on the more medical side, if you will, of the experience of what I went through and pushing the SOS button, because there were some comments on the extraction video I posted and also the what happens when you push the SOS button that I felt like maybe I should just clear some things up. First, there were some folks who said that I was foolish for beginning a new medication before I hit the trail, and also implied that because of my vanity, I risked the lives of the search and rescue crew who had to come and get me out of the woods. Now, I promise you, however much guilt somebody who comments wants to put on me, I've already put like 10 times that on myself, so we are good as far as that goes. But yes, I did start a medication to try to clear up my acne, and my dermatologist has been trying to put me on this for a couple of years now. Every time I go in and I get some new topical or try some new thing, he's like, hey, I really wish that you would just take this spironolactone. It will help with your hormones and it'll clear up your face. You have hormonal acne. And I always just kind of disregarded that because I don't like taking medicine and would try different topicals. So when I went in a few months ago for the skin cancer that was under my eyebrow, the doctor was looking at my face and all of my acne, and he mentioned again, hey, are you ready to try that spironolactone? And with my wedding coming up, as vain as it is, yes, I really wanted to have a clear face in my wedding pictures. So I took him up on his offer this time. He did warn me that it is used as a blood pressure medication, and they've found that it can also work for acne, so to keep a watch on my blood pressure. But I used this medication for 6 weeks before I hit the trail and worked out with it and never saw any issues. So I had no reason to believe that it would be a problem on trail. And I don't know how much longer I should have given it than 6 weeks with, you know, lifting weights and doing cardio and things like that, to see that it wasn't going to have any negative effects on me. Now, one thing that I feel like the dermatologist should have mentioned to me, but I will take credit here and say I also should have done my due diligence in researching, this medication can cause high potassium. And so when I was freaking out on trail and I started texting my sister, who is a pharmacist, Erin, and some other friends, they were all telling me that this thing can cause high potassium. Well, meanwhile, out on trail, I'm eating potatoes for dinner. So I thought, hey, this really might be the issue that I'm having. So it was very important at that point for me to get off trail and make sure that wasn't happening, because with high potassium can certainly come heart issues. Now, as time has gone forward, I'm feeling less confident that the spironolactone was to blame, because 2 different mornings since I've been back home, when I've been working out, I've started feeling some palpitations and just feel like something's not right. One morning, it really wasn't that big of a deal, but my Apple Watch on the ECG feature did show that I was in atrial fibrillation. Earlier this week, it was a little bit more intense. I actually felt pretty lethargic the rest of the day and not quite like myself even into the next morning, but I'm feeling fine now. Now, could the spironolactone have caused the 7,000 to 8,000 feet elevation to affect me? Possibly. I mean, all of this could just kind of be combined together. Something that was already happening, then taking the medication, then being at a higher elevation than what I'm used to in Alabama. But that's why I'm in such a rush to get to the cardiologist and actually get to the bottom of this. Some commenters also asked if potentially the COVID vaccine could have caused this issue with my heart. But I had COVID before the vaccines were ever released, or at least available for me to take. I never got a COVID vaccine, so it is definitely not that. Could COVID have caused something? Possibly. Others have asked me several times if I've been tested for Lyme disease or alpha-gal syndrome, and yes, I have been tested for the tick-borne stuff pretty recently, and I was cleared on that. So for plans going forward, I am personally ready to get back out on the trail and take y'all backpacking with me again. But until I can get in to see a cardiologist and find out for sure what's going on, it would be really irresponsible to get out there backpacking again and then have to push the SOS button again. But there are some positive things going on in my life right now. Last month I got married. That's something that I honestly had started to feel like would never happen for me, so I am pretty excited to start this chapter of my life. He is very supportive of what I do and wants me to continue backpacking, so no worries there. For our honeymoon, we got to go to Costa Rica. While we were there, obviously we didn't go backpacking, but we were able to get out in nature and see so many cool things. Now, I did not make a proper video where I narrated everything that we were doing, but I literally cannot help but to capture nature when I'm in it. So I did get some shots of sloths and toucans and frogs and all sorts of cool stuff in Costa Rica. So I will in some way, shape, or form share that with y'all, probably in a short here on the channel and on TikTok, Instagram, etc. Anyway, thank y'all so much for being here with me, for your patience as I go through this hiccup, but I can assure you, as soon as I am able to get out on trail, I will be out there and I will be documenting it and taking y'all with me. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you have any questions about anything that I've talked about today, feel free to leave those in the comments below, and we will see y'all next time.